Well, we're back after a nice Christmas break. We hope everybody had a wonderful Christmas. And now we plod along to the last days of this 2023, a year that's going to be remembered for some things and forgotten for others. We've got this slow moving storm in the plains as the blizzard there winds down. And we'll be talking about the rest of the week, the weekend, and a little bit of long range as we do just about every night right here on the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast, which is brought to you by Tempest by WeatherFlow. If you haven't gotten your Tempest WeatherFlow weather station, well, here's an opportunity for you to get the Tempest by WeatherFlow weather station and join the fastest growing observing weather network on the planet. The link is pinned to the top of the chat board. It's also on the descriptor to this video because Tempest is an affiliate of the Joe and Joe Weather Show. Use the coupon code I want a weather station. And if you do, you'll get
10 big percent off. Yes, 10%. As we near the end of 2023, you still can get 10% from Tempest, believe it or not.
That's right. Did you have a lovely Christmas, Mr. Rayo?
Yeah, it was very, very nice.
Just nice. Was that ham, by the way? What? The picture that I got from Mrs. Rayo in the oven, was that ham?
Is that who?
What did you have for dinner last night for Christmas?
We had meat.
What kind of meat?
No, prime rib. We had prime
it was a prime rib. Okay, because you sent me a picture of it. I couldn't tell if it was a prime rib or if it was a ham.
No, it was prime rib last night.
Well,
it was very
good.
It was about, and it was like 15 pounds.
Well,
that was a big.
That ran you over $100.
No, well, yours truly had to take that and bring it upstairs, and almost got a hernia.
I bet.
Bringing it up to the kitchen from the downstairs basement refrigerator and everything, but it was very good. We had about 10 people for Christmas dinner, and we enjoyed it. It was a very, and I'll tell you what, Joe, the weather turned out to be a lot better than I think a lot of people had expected. It was like 55 degrees, mid to late afternoon, blue sky, bright sunshine. We went into the evening under clear skies, saw the nearly full moon come up, and then we got fogged in just a few hours later. And as I speak to you now, it's kind of cloudy out there, a little on the damp side, and we're looking for another cloudy, misty, in some cases foggy night tonight, but still above normal temperature-wise. So we're going to have a few more days of this type of weather, and we're also looking at some wet weather here for later tomorrow and tomorrow night.
There's a spring-like tone. Let's say there's a spring-like tone or a spring-like flavor to the way the weather has been working the last couple of days, particularly with this fog at night. You get the long nights. You're kind of in a stagnant air mass. Light winds. I mean, it's all there, and that's probably going to create some dense fog conditions again, like this morning in some places. You'll probably have it again tomorrow morning.
Probably. It was interesting. We had, I would have to say, like a quarter-mile visibility at around 10 o'clock. And then, although we still had fog, the visibility was much better just a couple hours later. And I kept looking out the window from time to time overnight, and the fog was varying in its density or thickness. And it was as if it rained here this morning, although I knew that it was mostly due to the fog and not to any precipitation. But we are looking for some rain here tomorrow, later tomorrow, especially, and into tomorrow night. And in some cases, that rain could come down rather heavily, maybe anywhere from, for some folks, a half to maybe as much as an inch, which doesn't sound like much compared to the big soaking we had about 10 days ago. But still, it's another significant rain event, not snow, for our immediate tri-state area.
I had a nice surprise last night. So at I think it was maybe around 2:30 in the morning. I woke up, like sort of bolted up out of bed, and I woke up wide awake. I don't recall if it was a noise that got me to wake up, but I did wake up, and then I felt like a little funny on my hair. 5 seconds, after I woke up, I just kind of noticed right away. At first, I was wide awake. Second, I felt this like tingling in my hair. 5 seconds later, Joe, I heard the loudest thunder I have ever heard in my life. And I've had some thunderstorms here where the storm, and plus I'm in the mountains, which sort of makes it a gigantic echo chamber anyway. I've had a couple of instances where I've had storms literally overhead, so when you get the thunder, I mean, it's really loud and the house shakes. Well, this one really put the other ones to shame because not only did that it felt like the house shook, but JJ, who really doesn't care much about thunderstorms, actually came out from the other room and came up on the bed to get next to me. I walked out this morning and I had on the far end of on the front of my property, but it's I have uh, a lot of land in the front of my house. The far end of my property where the tree line begins before the road. Um, and I looked because I could see the scarring. The lightning had hit the tree, and part of it came down right on the propane tank, which was thankfully it wasn't like a very it wasn't the trunk that came down essentially. The thickness was a lot thinner, but it was still a fairly sizable part of the tree that came down and landed on the propane tank. So I'm sitting here waiting now for well, they're not coming tonight, obviously, but tomorrow I'm hoping that the propane company comes out. I called them to clear the tree. I could have done it myself because I basically would have had to make two cuts to take the end the part that's over the propane tank. But then I sort of had second thoughts about it and thought, you know what, this is a potentially explosive thing here, so I better let somebody that's professional do it rather than do it myself. But it was pretty, that thunder last night was impressive, very impressive.
And you actually felt your hair going up, or your hair
Yeah,
actually
I
did go
did. I
up?
did. And the thing was, I woke up just wide awake, so I don't know if there was because I don't remember hearing two shots of thunder. I didn't remember hearing and then waking up. So maybe there was a lead thunder, some lead thunder because after that big burst of thunder, I didn't hear a thing after that. So I'm just wondering if it was maybe there was thunder that I didn't consciously hear it, but it was enough to wake me up. And then I heard the big. There was supposed to be a big kaboom, Joe. Where was there was a big kaboom? The ammonium. What was it? The ammonium space modulator.
P238
The
space
P238
modulate.
space modulator. Yeah, I thought of that immediately. All right. So, yeah, the rain. I gotta wonder whether the rain might outperform a little bit because I'm gonna bring up the satellite loop. First of all, I got 3 inches of rain on the nose. Um, uh, 2 point. What did I get? 2.04 on Christmas Day, and then overnight last night I picked up another 0.96. So this morning I had 3 inches total on this. But this is another system where we've got a fairly strong subtropical jet coming out of the Pacific and across the Gulf of Mexico and moving off the Carolina coast. Now, I don't, it's not going to be the same as what happened, back a week or so ago with that big storm that moved up the coast. That was it 9 days ago now or 8 days ago. But I wonder if there might be a little bit of extra moisture with this. Give it a little extra oomph that maybe there might be a little bit of rain upside. I'm thinking. I was thinking maybe along the lines of 3/4 of an inch to maybe some places an inch and a quarter to an inch and a half before this is all said and done.
Is that you mean talking about for our area?
For eastern Pennsylvania to southern New
Yeah,
England, yes.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I could see that. I could see, uh, a bit of significant rainfall coming our way for this system coming in for mainly. It looks like after dark tomorrow night. Although, eh, how can I describe this? Spotty mist and drizzle, light rain through the first half of the day, then steadier light rain in the afternoon, and then as we move into tomorrow night, we get into a somewhat heavier dose of precipitation, which will linger. It would appear until around sunrise on Thursday.
And by
Even
the
Thursday looks like,
yeah,
yeah.
go ahead. Go ahead. Finish your thought.
No, I was saying even on Thursday, it doesn't look like we're going to be completely free of precipitation. We'll probably still have a lot of that spotty, misty stuff. But again, the main thrust or the main push of rain looks like it's going to be coming our way late tomorrow night. Sometime between like midnight and dawn on Thursday morning.
Yeah, this is going back to what I was saying earlier. There's almost like a spring-like tone to all this in terms of how these weather systems are structured, and I just want to, I've got the subtropical jet drawn on there, but I also want to put I put a circle around the storm in the plains. And what makes this unusual is that usually when you get these storms that come out and go out to our west like this, they head up toward the Great Lakes and eventually find their way up into southern Canada, and they strengthen along the way so that you would see, the snow that fell in northern Kansas and up into Nebraska and South Dakota would expand across Minnesota and Wisconsin and then get up into the northern Great Lakes and then maybe eventually even move some snow into northern New England. But that's not the case here. This upper air circulation is actually going to drop southeastward and then go eastward. So I think that lends to your argument that you're probably going to have lingering. It's going to be hard to clear this out until you get all of this out of the way, which means that upper low that's with that storm out in the plains, you have to get that to eject out east, and that may not happen until sometime later Friday or late Friday or early Saturday. So it may be a while before you get some genuine clearing. The upside to all of this is that if everything does move along, maybe the weekend and New Year, particularly Sunday and Monday, New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, will turn out to be two relatively decent days.
Right. I could, I remember, wasn't too long ago. Was it 20? Yeah, I would think it was 2018, New Year's Eve 2018. It was bitterly cold. And in fact, I remember distinctly that I was working that Sunday morning at FiOS 1. If you remember, Joe, we had to deal with the New York Giants where we had to do the weather for MetLife Stadium Giant games. And that was the first and only time I ever had that opportunity to do that, to appear on the big scoreboard out at MetLife Stadium. And the big story that day, New Year's Eve 2018, was the fact that it was bitterly. I think it was one of the coldest New Year's Eves on record. When I think at ball drop time, the temperature dropped to like 8 or 9 degrees, something ridiculous like that. And here we are now looking at a bit of a cool down for New Year's Eve. I mean, after a cool down from what we're experiencing from yesterday and today or whatever like that, but still, it won't be anything like that frigidity that we experienced about 5 years ago.
Oh no, yeah, definitely not. Definitely not. Last Christmas was cold. Down here, I was below zero. Had 4 days where temperatures didn't get above freezing, and many hours with temperatures in the low teens and single digits. It got to low 60s today. It got to mid 50s yesterday, and but it rained all day here yesterday. I mean, literally all day long. So yeah, one year yes, 1 year no. In the meantime, we still have blizzard warnings up for Northeast. This is the first time we didn't do this at all, Joe. We hardly had this at all during the month of December up until now. But we actually have, blizzard warnings up from northeastern Colorado, northwestern Kansas, western Nebraska, southwestern South Dakota. Winter storm warnings kind of surround that. We've got ice storm warnings up for parts of eastern North Dakota, to a couple of counties in Minnesota, with winter weather advisories surrounding that. But this would be, like as I said earlier, this would be normally a situation of a deepening low that would be heading up to the Great Lakes, and you would see those winter storm warnings and advisories expanded over to the lakes. But it's just such an odd, it's such an odd pattern that is set up right now, and I think this is all part of what looks to me like it's going to be a long this pattern change that we're undergoing. As they often are, they are grinding processes. I mean, they just take they take sometimes 10 days to 2 weeks to play out, and I think that's what we're seeing here. That it's in that slow process that's begun, we're going to take it's going to be a good 10 days or more before we see what it ultimately winds up. And I will just warn everybody that the pattern, one of my often used lines is, the pattern change you want and the pattern change you get may not be may not be the same thing. So just bear that in mind, that we could go from a pattern that's unfavorable for winter weather lovers to another pattern that's different but could still be unfavorable to winter weather lovers, depending on your location.
And for the 60, well, I'm not going to say how many. I mean, it's in the 60s. But I mean, from, as far back as I can remember, I've always been waiting for a big snowstorm to hit on New Year's Eve, just to see what would happen, how many people would show up in Times Square if we had one of those raging blizzards, with 12 inches and blowing snow and drifting snow. You would think that after all of these years, we would get something like that, and we yet to see that. Now, we came very close in 2000, December 30th, 2000. It was a Saturday. We had a big snowfall in New York, but it was, again, the day before New Year's Eve. And then way back in 1971, 71, I remember on New Year's Eve, it started snowing right after the ball dropped, and by the next morning, we had like 6 or 8 inches of snow. It was a quickie storm, and it did drop heavy snow, but it came after the ball drop. I'm still waiting to see if we get one of those kind of situations. We certainly have had very cold New Year's Eves in my lifetime, but still waiting for the big snow to take place. And it ain't going to happen this year because, again, we're just too warm. And, people have been asking me, a lot of people asking me yesterday over Christmas dinner, Joe, well, Joe, is it ever going to get cold here? Are we ever going to get snow? And I'm like shaking my head saying, I wish I could give you an answer. I mean, some of the maps seem to suggest that we might be heading for that. Others saying, well, maybe not in the immediate future. So I'll be curious to see what you think. I looked at the 10 millibar map on the GFS yesterday and today, and it looks like after a major stratospheric warming event, as we kick off the new year, that the polar vortex actually stretches and breaks apart, and we actually have one vortex that's sitting by the 5th or 6th of January over Hudson Bay.
Yeah, and it's the polar vortex is in the stratosphere. Our forecast, whether it splits or not, or how it splits, or maybe it elongates. I mean, it does, the models have been on the primary runs have been pretty bullish on the idea of a split, but either way, the vortex is going to be weak, and that's you want that to be the case, because of what goes on upstairs oftentimes is the reverse of what goes on downstairs. So you want that to be the case. You want a weak polar vortex. You don't want one that's wrapped really, really strong and wrapped up like a tight little ball. So either way, you would tend to think that should be bullish. On the other hand, we don't know how that is going to line up. It still doesn't tell you how are the troughs going to line up in the eastern part of the United States, how are the ridges going to line up in the western part of the United States. if they line up that way. And it could be a wonderful pattern for snow for the Great Lake for winter weather for say the Great Lakes or the Ohio Valley, and not so much for the coastal plain. I don't know. I mean, I don't think that's. I think that is yet to be resolved. On the other hand, Joe, I think there's a chance that I might see snow here in North Georgia, and
before we see it.
Jess Harden, who's on the board tonight, jumping up and down like a excited young kid getting ready to open a present under the Christmas tree, that he may see snow there in northern Alabama before you do. So that's possible. Radar is actually fairly busy tonight in North Carolina. We've got moderate to heavy rain in the middle part of the state, and there's some moderate to heavy rain off the South Carolina coast, and that extends even into central Virginia, and there's a patch of moderate rain in northwestern Virginia on up into south central PA, well, the western parts of south central PA. It's almost into southwest PA, but not quite. And then some rain extending northward into central New York and up into northeastern New York. You've got some back edge uh, rain in southern Ohio and in eastern Kentucky. Uh, got to go back here to where we've got the winter storm and blizzard warnings up, where you see some snow, and that's up in western South Dakota into Nebraska and into eastern Colorado. Looks like they got some snow going on in the Denver area right now. But again, this is really odd. Look at that arc, that arc that runs from South Dakota northeast to northern Minnesota, over the top of Lake Superior, across southeastern Canada, but well north of the U.S. border and north of Lake Huron and well north of Lake Erie in Ontario. I mean, if this is rain all the way up. I mean, except for maybe northernmost Maine for a while. There's no snow to be had with these systems because there's no cold air.
You're absolutely right. And yesterday was probably the mildest and brownest white non-white Christmas, except again for places out in the plain states. And the only places that were seeing snow yesterday were parts of South Dakota and Nebraska and maybe a part of Kansas. But I mean, that's the way it has been so far, and we're just waiting to see some kind of an intrusion of colder air coming into our part of the world. And again, this stratospheric warming that is being predicted by not just one but several models seemingly is going to lead us into a spell of colder weather sometime after the first week of January of 2024. But again, still yet to be seen.
Right. David Fuller hits the tip jar. The first one to hit it after Christmas. Thank you, David. And he says GFS models are teasing snow lovers. One is it's there, the next it's gone. Yes, you have always, Joe. You have I've noticed the last several days. There's the obligatory GFS snowstorm at 360 to 384 hours, and then
a lot of people
then it's gone.
A lot of people have been saying, or have been alluding to, a big snowfall around the 4th or 5th of January. And from what I've been able to see, sometimes the model runs are taking a storm close enough to us from offshore to maybe bring us some snow, and then other times it looks like the whole thing is going to pass off to our south and east. Who's to say? Who knows until we actually get within 2 or 3 days of the actual event.
And it could very well be just rain. I mean, you're talking about there's a minimal amount of dirty cold air. So unless you've got some kind of cold upper low that you could maybe create some cyclonic cold air that mixes down, I mean, it's hard for me to envision that possibility from what I looked on the models. But I always have an open mind for these things. But I'm not I'm not getting excited. Let's put it that way. So you got the look on the radar. By the way, we do have some rain that's coming into the Pacific Northwest, and when we check out WPC, they actually have some several to let's say 3 to 5 inches possible from San Francisco north into southwestern Oregon, and lesser amounts as you go to the north. There's a small heavy patch there in northwestern Washington. In the east, um, you've got WPC's got patches of 1.5 inches across Pennsylvania, northern New Jersey, New York City, Long Island, the Hudson Valley, southern Connecticut, and then on up into the Catskills. Uh, Coming off that big rain from 9 days ago, I don't think anybody wants to see 1.5 inches or 2 inches of rain out of this, but we'll see how that goes. And the liquid precip amounts of 1/2 to 3/4 all the way up to central Maine and all the way down into South Carolina. Now, bear in mind that the areas over south of North Carolina, it's been raining here there all day, so that's on top of the rain that has already fallen. And just to go back to the watches and warnings, I think there's still flood watches up for parts of western North Carolina and a couple of counties in southwest Virginia, and a few advisories there, some flood advisories there. And we also have dense fog advisories up. I think they're dense fog advisories. Let me just double check, because this is exciting that we have, yeah, dense fog advisories for much of eastern and southeastern Massachusetts, Rhode Island, a good chunk of Connecticut, and also around Long Island. That's the Boston office, so let's go southwest. And you can see Nassau and Suffolk, yes, and Queens. I can't see where the borderline is. I'm thinking, like, it's hard to tell. They look like they have half of Queens in a dense fog advisories, but there's a wall somewhere halfway across Queens on your way to Brooklyn where the fog just stops. And then in southern Westchester, and again across much of the Connecticut except the Northwest, we have that. The WPC snowfall forecast for the next 72 hours has 50% or higher probabilities covering the whole state of well, most of the state of Missouri, except the ends on both sides, and also a 5 to, let's say, 30% chance of at least 2 inches in the mountains of West Virginia down into western North Carolina. Brown is 5%, and the dark green is 30 to 40%. And then as we move up into Maine, we've got a 20 to 30% chance of an additional couple of inches up there. So that's it. I mean, I'm just going to widen this out just to show you the rest of the U.S. You got some patchy stuff still left over in Nebraska and in eastern Colorado with up to 50%, and not much really on the West Coast, even in the mountains. Think about last year when California got clobbered for, January, February, and March for 3 months worth of snow, and this year they're making up for it in the other direction because they really haven't had very much. So there's that. So where are we going in the long range? I don't know where this is all going to wind up. It's frustrating because
And Dr. Cohen, I read his Twitter statements every day, and it's getting to the point now where I've got some knowledge. I know you have knowledge too in this science of meteorology, Joe, but I have no clue sometimes what he's inferring or what he's implying in these statements. I think he's just as confused as everybody else.
Well, I follow a few other people on Twitter. Dr. Amy Butler, and she's at the top of her game because it's way over my head, some of the stuff that they put up there. But I've got the 200 millibar up, and you see that the rotation of the polar vortex and the reddish brown areas that's warm air relative to normal. So it's pretty warm from that respect. Coming around on the backside, and you can see how the vortex then stretches and splits in two. One center goes into Siberia. The other one, as you said, Joe, goes down into Hudson Bay. The idea here is supposedly that this is going to lead to some blocking in the mid levels of the atmosphere in the longer term. I will I hate to use one of there were number of phrases that cliched phrases that I hear people use all the time, and one of the ones that I can't stand is the one where people say, "I'll believe it when I see it." It's like, okay, well, I don't know. I just find that statement pretty ludicrous.
They
But
must all be from Missouri, the show me state.
well, I'm kind of feeling this way because it's sort of like, okay, that's all fine and dandy. And by the way, this starts to happen sometime around day 11. So today is the 26th, so we got 5. So we're talking about around January 6th or 7th that you get this stretching that occurs and then the split that occurs shortly after that. I really would like to see this carry into the inside that 10-day time frame to feel a little bit better about it and get it into the 7-day time frame where um, I would feel even better about it. But the big question is, does this couple downstairs? Because we had this happen a few years ago and it never did. They looked at the polar vortex and splitting and all the rest of it.
We hit
And
100, by the way.
yes, I
So,
I see 100 likes. Thank you, especially since we didn't have to ask. That's always good. Yeah,
yes.
this is all fine and dandy, but does it get down into the surface? Does it couple down to the surface? I don't know.
I don't know either. And I have a feeling Dr. Cohen has no idea either. And it's, what can I say except that if we're going to get a cold winter or if we're going to get some cold weather in here for the winter season, I guess we're going to have to start from scratch. And having the polar vortex split and having one of the vortices over Hudson Bay, that's not a bad start. We could
No,
try
and
working with that.
Adam Lojo on the chat board, who normally is, well, I shouldn't say this. It's not quite true. I mean, he just kind of tells you what he likes to post about the MJO and its implications. So, lately there hasn't, for quite a while, there hasn't been much to talk about with regards to that. But he says, I can tell you we are going to get an extreme cold spell in January. The MJO is now pointing that way. So I assume it's going into phases 8, 1, and 2, if that's the case. Stalling in the cold phases, but will it be too cold for snow? Well, you know what, Adam, as far as the second part of what you say about it being too cold for snow, you know what? Let's get it cold first. Let's worry about that when we get there. You got to get it cold first. Right now, we can't even get it cold. So, I mean, other than these occasional shots of cold air that we have had, but they've been transitory in and out because of the way the pattern is, or the way the pattern was. But let's get it cold first, and then we'll worry about that problem. You know?
It's I yearn for the days, or I yearn for the winters when we could go on the air and say, we see a big buildup over the Yukon, over the Northwest Territories of frigidly cold air, and based upon both computer models and also on our experience, empiricism, we believe that's going to be sweeping on in to much of the central and northern United States by let's say next Saturday. And we've not seen anything remotely like that.
No.
Any kind of situation that would telegraph to us that we're on our way toward a very frigidly cold period of weather. There's nothing like that.
No, and on the other hand, we do have this. I'm just looking at this from right now. Uh, we do have this southern jet that's fairly persistent. Now, the thing is, just so you go maybe back to Adam's comment about the fact that it maybe it'd be too cold for snow. The southern jet's there. So as long as if that holds, if that's going to be that's something that we've been seeing regardless of how the rest of the pattern has. That southern jet has been around for quite a while. So it's been very persistent. So if you hold on to that and then you can get that cross-polar flow, which we don't have. And in fact, if you this is by the way this afternoon, the GFS 18Z analysis, and you know you look at the flow in Canada. I mean, coming off the Pacific, the air is going up into northwest Canada from the southwest, and then it kind of drops down across southern Hudson Bay and in through eastern Canada and goes out. So all the cold air is north of that line, the colder air. And in the meantime, you've got the southern jet producing, helping to produce this massive cutoff low that's sitting in Kansas, and then you got another deep cutoff low that's halfway between Hawaii and the Canadian northwest coast. So that's out there. At least it's not a straight line fire hose from Tokyo to San Francisco. As we go through time, the thing I want to watch for, we keep seeing this. We've had this trough in Alaska, which has helped to bring this sort of southwest flow into Western Canada. That needs to go away, and the models have been trying to make it go away, and it actually, after you get to about 90 or 96 hours, it does finally start to go away. And as long as we don't get some sort of surprise where another trough comes in down the road that the models aren't picking up on, that's a positive sign. And you'll also notice at around day 10 that there is some, a bit of a block there developing between Iceland and Greenland. So that doesn't hurt. And then eventually you sort of come around to the idea of a deep trough in the eastern part of the United States in some fashion later in the period. Now here's where it starts to get, but we're going way out here after about day 11. This is about the time where we're in the full-fledged split. You've got this cross-polar flow now that's running from the Arctic straight down through Western Canada, but it's mostly in the Rockies and Plains. It's all in here. So, we've got a ridge off the East Coast at this point, and just got to kind of wait for that to move eastward. So, once again, like we were looking at last week, Joe, and like we're looking at now, it always seems to be like toward the end. Yeah, it finally gets to where you want it to get to at the end of the forecast period, but we never seem to get closer. Every day it's a day later. It's a day later. It's a day later. And I'm just getting kind of tired of this whole it's a day later. I want it to be it's not a day later, it's a day sooner. And that doesn't seem to be happening.
It's been a long waiting game, and I can remember going back to late October, early November, people like Bill Kirk over at Weather Trends saying, well, when the El Nino begins to subside or begins to collapse in late November, early December, that we're going to start seeing a very definitive push toward colder conditions, maybe as early as mid or late December. Then suddenly became late December. Then it became late December, early January.
Now
and you're right. We
now,
keep just pushing. We keep pushing back the time frame when the cold air is going to finally push in here. So I don't really know. By the time we get to March, will we still be waiting? I have no clue.
By the way, here's the obligatory snowstorm for the interior of the Mid-Atlantic and the Northeast. Actually, even has it changing over to ice and snow at the coast before ending. The obligatory storm at the end of the forecast period, and the obligatory bitter cold air with 486 thicknesses, Joe, in northern Minnesota. Okay, so again, it's at the end, and again, when the next run comes out in about 3.5 hours, when it's all done, this will look totally different. So there's that. All right.
Well, but if it just would show something like this and then just hold on to it for more than a run or two, that would be something that.
But you know what? It actually, yeah, it actually did over the time we were off. It held on to it for like a run or two or even three, and then it lost it again. So I don't know. In the meantime, the plains low weakens. It drops southeastward. There's hardly anything left to it. We've got just like this giant occluded front that's lifting up. You're getting a low that develops on it. And, there's rain Wednesday night into Thursday. GFS got that yellow area of some heavy rain in southern New Delaware and southern New Jersey. Then that goes out. Now you got to wait for the upper low to get out of the way, and you see those showers. It's got some snow in Missouri and in Kentucky, dropping down to Tennessee to me. So I might see something here come late Friday or Friday night with this, and also into the mountains of West Virginia. And it still has some light rain into Saturday morning in New Jersey, kind of patchy stuff, and southern New England before it finally pulls out. And then it looks dry for Sunday and for New Year's Day. And then another low comes out in the flow and makes for a storm east of the Delaware coast. But guess what? There's not, it's borderline dirty cold air, as I like to call it. And then that goes away. Then another low comes out of the Gulf and brings snow to me. This is on January 4th, Joe, into interior South and North Carolina with a low that develops offshore and then moves straight east. Or if you looked on the prior run, it blew it up into something more impressive. And then that goes out. Honestly, I don't think it matters which run we look at in terms of what it does, the operational run does on the surface, because both of them are not going to get it right beyond the 8th and ninth day anyway. So that's one way to look at it. And I guess, should we look at Ann Shambles?
Why not?
Ann Shambles.
In shambles.
We've got the new Ann Shambles. So let's see what this tells us, if it tells us anything. Okay, so just rolling along. This is New Year's Day. Trough pulls out. You start to get that ridging up the Pacific Northwest and into Alaska. Okay, and that's at 168 hours, so we're kind of happy with that. Actually has some pretty decent troughing from Hudson Bay around January 4th or 5th. From Hudson Bay to the southeast, that is not a warm look there. I mean, that's different from the operational. That's a cold look that the ensembles have at around day 7 and 8. So you want to hang your hat on that, you can. And then going forward, see, now the ensembles would suggest that the operational is opposite, because now it's got the trough at the end. See, and this is where I sort of lose it. It's got a trough back in Alaska and a trough in the west at the end of the forecast period, but it's got normal heights in the east. It's not warm in the east. So I don't know. I honestly I don't know.
Well, seasonal.
Yeah.
See, I mean, like that would mean for us it would be upper 30s for highs and low 20s or near 20 for low temperatures. And hey, look at this, John. I mean, at least it's not temperatures in the 50s like we saw yesterday for Christmas 2023 up here.
I just want to see if the CFS. I saw the CFS earlier and I wanted to spit up, but that's me. All right, so this first frame that's up is today through January 6th. I'm sorry, January 2nd. Okay. And then from January 2nd to the 9th, it's got troughing in the east, ridging up in the west. Okay, so the CFS and the ensemble seem to want to make it colder faster. All right, so there's that. And then, of course, the trough disappears. And now we've got a big ridge across Canada in the northern half of the United States from January 16th to the 23rd, and it holds on to most of that ridging until we get to January 30th to February 6th. And then it's just normal heights with a ridge in the west. I know, and it's different from what it had just about a week. We looked at this a week or so ago. So a grinding. It's a grinding, torturous process to watch this evolve. And I look, if it winds up that we go the whole month of January without seeing anything, it would not shock me. From the standpoint of, I mean, I doubt that I'm going to be that what I just said will be correct, but if it winds up that we have that the pattern never gets to where you want it to get to, it would not surprise me. Maybe that's the weird thing about this winter, is that for much of the country there won't be much of one. On both coasts.
Well, don't tell that to the people who have the blizzard out there today.
Right. Well, except for those minor exceptions. By the way, China, I saw some video from Beijing today where they're covered in snow. And they talk about extremes, because they went from setting all-time record highs in much of central and northern China a couple of weeks ago They had days in a row of all-time record highs for the month of December, only to have it completely reverse. And now that now they're setting all-time December record lows.
You know, it can turn on a dime sometimes, and you know, it's a Joe. We've gone into this winter with a completely different script as opposed to just 1 year ago. And of course, last year we had hardly any snow here in the northeastern United States, at least in the area along the I-95 corridor. I'm not going to write this winter off. I mean, we're only, for God's sake, we're only 5 days into winter, astronomical winter.
Right.
Although, although I must point out that we're only a few days away from finishing out month number one of meteorological winter, and we certainly haven't seen very much in terms of winter going all the way back to December 1st.
Now, I certainly will. I will say that I'm not. I'm not ready uh, to throw in the towel. But my towels are in the wash. Okay, they're in the wash, and they're will eventually get into the dryer, and then after that, I will fold them, and I will keep one of those towels handy. I just brought up by the way, the anomalies in Europe, okay, because they were cold there for a while. Now they've gone to a warmer than normal pattern across much of Europe, going through all of this week. Now we're going to go into next week. It's still above normal every day. Now there's below normal temperatures in northern Siberia that start creeping southward, but they don't really push very far. And yeah, I mean, look at this. It's like 16 days of this. This is day 10. 10 days of of normal to much above normal temperatures across Europe. And then finally, toward the end of the forecast period, it gets actually fairly cold for Central and Northern Europe. Not so much for Southern Europe, like Spain, Italy, Southern France are all still above normal. But it does get colder in the northern half, especially over England and Ireland. So that could be the block at work to some degree. That's going to do that. I don't know, but um, can't give anybody any answers today because I really don't have them. Do you have Briller Jeopardy or do I?
I think I've had Briller Jeopardy now for the better part of a week.
Well, then you know what,
Uh,
Joe? I think you should use Briller Jeopardy then.
I think we ought to as well. Let me go.
And the
Yeah,
chairman is not on the board, probably enjoying an extended Christmas holiday for which we uh, extend our Merry Christmas wishes to him. And again, if you're late joining the Joe and Joe Weather Show, hope you had a great Christmas. I certainly did. Had my grandkids for 2 days.
Wednesday, 6:02 a.m. Wednesday, 6:02 a.m.
Well, that
So
was our last show was last Wednesday.
6:02 a.m. though.
Oh, so he sent them
Scott
in.
Briller,
He,
he
he
sent he Scott Briller sent me this Briller Jeopardy last Wednesday at 6:02 a.m. Now that goes to show you, I guess, Scott, right on the ball. uh,
I just want before you start, I just want to address one thing. Tom Contino says everyone this winter would said it would be cold and stormy. This goes to what I normally practice. You may not have been on the board the day that I mentioned this, but Joe, you remember I about the fact that when too many people are on the same side of the trade, it's often a very good idea to look at the other side. And I'm not comfortable with having had everybody going in that same direction because it sets up for a huge embarrassment, which we know in the world of weather happens quite a bit. So, like it's only December 26th. I keep thinking to last year where we kept saying it's only December 26th. It's only February 1st. It's and I think by the time we got to the middle of February, all the towels were thrown. But um, it's bothersome to me that so many people were on that train. And if it winds up being if it winds up being something else other than what they're predicting, there's going to be a lot. And you and I are going to be lumped into that same barrel. So be prepared.
Tobes. No, I'm, damn, I can't. I apologize. Is it Jagu? I have
Let's
no.
just stick with the first name is Tobes. So that's good.
Tobes.
We know
Okay.
that. Hi, Tobes. Welcome to the chat board because I think he's new to the chat board.
He says, I think this winter is going to rival. You ready for this, Joe? He says, I think this winter is going to rival the winter of 77, 78 in terms of brutally frigid temperature and snowstorms across the United States of America, east of the continent. I'd be interested, Tobes. Were you alive in 1977, 78? Were you around back then? Or are you just looking up statistics and looking at temperatures and snow totals for that year? Because Joe and I lived through that period, that time frame, and what you're saying, we're about as far away from 77, 78 as I think you can possibly get at this moment in time. In fact, I can tell you that in December of 1977, it turned out to be a heck of a lot colder than what we've seen now, and we've also had some snow to deal with.
Yeah, we had a
So
couple. We had a couple snow events in that year, but
I
but
mean,
but most of it still waited to January. Uh, that week what was it January 19th 20, so started around January 12th to 13th, and then we got us 3 lows in 6 days,
right,
culminating in the January 19th 20th surprise. Then there was the Cleveland blizzard around January 25th or 6th that washed everything away, and then we
right.
had the blizzard of 78 that followed after that. So um,
That
yeah,
was a
I mean,
very active winter.
yeah, windows of opportunity can open up. I would like to see the pattern get there so that we actually can put our hands on something tangible, as opposed to still speaking in this sort of broad theoretical perspective. Um, so it's it's frustrating. It's just frustrating. David Scott, by the way, asks if we're doing limited schedule for New Year's. I don't think we are. I mean, we're going to be on Thursday, and are we going to be on Sunday, New Year's Eve? Because I'm not doing anything.
I don't see any reason why I'm not planning to be anywhere on Sunday, New Year's Eve. I'll let you know, but
And I've got no plans for New Year's Day. Just another day for me.
yep.
Okay, so the answer to the question is nope. It'll be normal. Unless something comes up, we have no schedule changes for the week ahead. So for those of you who are new, the schedule usually here is Sunday through Thursday at 7:35. We're usually off Fridays and Saturdays unless there's a storm going on, in which we would pop on and do something, and then we're back on Sunday. And of course, I was doing, except for yesterday, I was doing videos while we were off that you can watch during the day, Weather in a Minute and Weather in 5. And those post on my YouTube channel. Okay, let's do Briller Jeopardy as we coming up on 8:30 Eastern Time on this 26th of December.
Okay, so a fairly easy, straightforward one. What on this Briller Jeopardy? What is the average snowfall annually for each of the following 5 cities, starting with Indianapolis? How much snow does Indianapolis get typically in a winter season, Joe?
I will say 25.
Joe, I'm going to say it again. If it were a snake, it would have bit
Bit
you.
me. Well, I was debating about whether going a little lower than 20. These are all round numbers, right?
Right.
Well, Tobes says 26.
Well, Tobes is right.
Okay, I was going to say
26.
24, then I went to 25. All
I'm
right.
still, I'm still waiting to hear from Tobes of whether or not he was around in 77, 78. Anyway, Minneapolis, Mary Tyler Moore's favorite city.
I'm going to say 48.
Close, Joe. Well, just a little bit short.
Okay. Minneapolis, Louis Orizio says 45. Alan Rupa says 56. John Melander says 42.
Oh,
Christinapedia says 32. Rich Rothmancy says 51.
and Rich Rotsmansky, you are right. You hit it right on the nose.
Okay.
Yeah, Tobes was born in November of 1991, so he wasn't even around for that winter, Joe. This is again another person who once again just simply looks
Well,
at
he
the
dug at the statistics, but the statistics don't always tell you everything.
right,
You know.
right. Here's one that you should know,
But
Joe.
I give him
Joe,
credit.
I should
I
know.
give him credit for looking at the statistics.
Yeah.
Okay.
Here's one that you and I both should know intimately. Central Park.
Oh, Central Park. 30.
And there you go. 30. Right on the
30.
nose.
Barry Goldberg, I don't know why Super Chat's not working for you. Why don't you try logging off and log off YouTube and then log back into YouTube and see if it comes up. Maybe you didn't log into YouTube or you need to log into YouTube. So try it that way. Okay, so we got 30. What's next?
Alrighty, and this is number 4, Oklahoma City.
Oklahoma City. That's a tough one. I'll say 18.
That's a little bit too much, Joe.
Too much? Okay. There was a few years where they got a lot, and then they go,
Yeah.
then they won. Scott Garrett says 16. Lou Arizio says 15. Tobe says 19. Tyler Fenga says 20. So what did I say, 18?
I think you said 18.
18. John Melander says 16. So we got to go lower than 16. Maggie P
Well,
says,
Maggie
10.
P so far with 10 is closest, and still she was a little bit too much.
Really?
Really?
Alan Rupa said 12, so obviously it's under 10. Under
Yes.
10. Rich Rothmanski says 9, question mark.
Still not
Not low enough?
not low enough, no.
David Fuller, 9. Carol DeCara at 19. So no, it's got to be under 9. So it's, what, 7?
7. David Fuller said 7, and he hit it.
Oh, all right.
And 7
I
inches
would have
in-
thought it would have been more than that.
And last one, actually, after this one, there's a bonus. Last one, Philadelphia.
Philadelphia, New York City is 30, so I'll say Philadelphia, I'll say 23.
You got it, Joe, 23. John Melander, 7.7.
By the way,
3.2 inches.
the Philadelphia, Mount Holly put up something the other day, and I'm probably going to get the number wrong. The average snowfall is 23, but the median snowfall is something like 17. I would be curious to see what the median snowfall is for New York City, because the big storms skew the numbers up. I mean, you can't really take them out because everything counts. So, yeah, the average might be 30, but there's a lot of 20-inch snowstorms in there. So when you get the 20, in years that you don't get a big snowstorm are probably going to be years that you're going to finish below average. I would just be curious as to what the median is. Maybe the median is closer to 23, 24.
I was going to say 22.
Or 22.
Yeah. Well, I don't have the exact figure median for Central Park, but I agree with you. It probably is not.
Well, if Philadelphia is like 6, I think it was 17. So it's 6 inches under. So let's use the same idea for New York City. Let's go 6 under or 7 under. So that would say 24, 23, possibly 22.
Right.
So anyway, all right. Well, what was the bonus question?
Barrow.
Barrow's not that high. It's not that high.
Yeah.
In fact, I saw this once, and I'm trying to remember. It's like it's in the 20s, isn't it?
It's actually what the hell? I'll say it outright. It's exactly the same as Central Park.
30. Yeah, it's not that high up there because once the Arctic freezes, there's no real moisture source. And and plus it's windy up there. My God, how do they tell the difference between what falls and what blows?
You probably have like 20 to 1 or 30 to 1 snowfall up there.
Right. Exactly. That's another issue.
Very
It's
finicky and
it's
very
snowing at
powdery.
10 below. What the ratios are going to be what, like 50 to 1?
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that.
Something ridiculous. Talcum powder.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Um,
I do want to mention tomorrow is Mrs. Rayo's birthday.
yes, it is.
And so we do plan to go out if we've timed this out correctly, and if we go for an early dinner. And since we are senior citizens now, maybe we should go for the early bird dinner
Right, get the discount.
and get the discount or whatever. If so, I mean, we should be back by 7:30, unless we might be. I might be a little delayed if I can manage to get a cake, and if the kids come over to, be there to help her blow the candles out or whatever. But anyway, tomorrow night, Mrs. Rayo, executive producer of the Joe and Joe Show, will turn years old.
Well, I was going to say, what birthday is it, Ethel? Oh, it's mine.
And somebody on the chat board said, "So what did you get Joe Rayo for Christmas?" I will show you what this my. Hold on for a second here. Oh God, my sister asked me that question about a week or two ago, and now that I'm no longer doing television regularly, but I do a lot of freelance writing. I've been doing that for many years now, and I write for a number of different articles for magazines and journals or whatever. And I had been fortunate enough to have 9 over the last 25 years. I've managed to have like 9 cover stories of various for Sky and Telescope magazine, for Night Sky, Natural History, and also 2 cover stories for Weatherwise. So what she did was she took all of those covers of those magazines I had the cover story, and sent them to some outlet or whatever, who blew them up, put them in a frame. I want to show you. This is one example right here.
Oh, that's really cool.
This is Weatherwise magazine, a cover story that I wrote for them in 1999, and it's beautiful. And I have 9 of these. And so there's a wall adjacent to just outside of my office here. So I'm going to hook that up and hook them up. I'm going to hang them up outside of the office here, all 9 of them. And again, it's beautiful. It's just absolutely gorgeous. And I thank my sister for doing that for me. It's just great. So every time I come down here now and I pass the door, I'll be able to look up and see all of the cover stories I've written for all of these magazines over the years. And so that's how my Christmas went. I know, Joe, you spent time with the grandkids. It must really be great to do that. If they get a few more years older, they'll be able to understand who Santa Claus is, and you'll be able to play with them on that degree.
All right. Well, I could show you what I got. I'd have to go to the Christmas tree to get it because they're still sitting under the tree. Should I do that?
Sure.
All right, hold on. Hold on. Oh, these old legs. So, hang on here.
I hope it's not heavy enough so that you get a hernia or whatever
No,
from
it's not. I just got to bring them over because they're.
Does JJ, by the way, get Christmas gifts?
Yes, he did. I'll show you what he got. He's in love with this one. I'll show you the one. He got a couple of things, but this one he really loves. I haven't opened this one of his. By the way, I did a roast leg of lamb, as I sent you the picture. I did a roast leg of lamb with rosemary and sage, roasted yellow potatoes, and asparagus. And then I had My friend Marie Callender gave me an apple pie, and I
Yeah,
baked it.
Renata thought that she had an apple pie marine calendar in our freezer, and I said I don't see any, and she said
Well,
I'm
Marie said she got it out of somebody's freezer and gave it to me. So maybe she came over your house in the middle of the night. I don't know. So he hasn't opened this one yet. This is a Super Chew bark thing. I don't know how it works, but he's got this. Okay, so he hasn't opened that yet. But my daughter gave him this kind of looks like Cookie Monster from Sesame Street. He's in love with this thing. He just absolutely loves this. So that's his.
okay.
So my neighbor Addison gave me this LED multi-tool. That's what that looks like. Because I'm always doing yard work and stuff like that. And he also gave me for my cooking an ulu knife chopping bowl set from Alaska. It's an Alaskan thing. So I got that. And then my friend Owen got me. Where are they? I've kept them wrapped because they're fresh. He got me. He got oh my. He got me my go-to cigars, which I love, and I told him this morning couldn't have gotten me a better gift. And then my daughter got me all these gardening tools, complete with cosmos seeds. And then my two other daughters, my youngest daughter sent me some mixed nuts from Harry and David, and my oldest daughter sent me ordered something on Amazon, but it's not coming until Saturday. I don't know what that is. So these are my presents.
Sounds like a very yet a very worthwhile and very profitable.
I did, but I'm just going to tell you, it had been a long time, Joe. Just putting these down on my dresser. I got to put them away.
Here's Mr. Sweeney, by the way. My daughter made Christmas
uh,
ornaments with
this is
Sweeney's
Mr. Sweeney.
likeness,
Nice.
and it's
I
actually
got to do that for JJ. I got to do that. Oh, that's cute.
so there you go.
Um, it had been since my kids were small that I had a Christmas with three children ages 5 and under. Okay, and uh, I forgot what that was like, but I was with my grandchildren both Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. I was given a gentle reminder of what that experience is like. So I will just tell you that um, you will have that experience one day, and I want you to remember this conversation.
Yes, I
Okay,
will.
just remember this conversation.
I will.
Okay, because
All right, so I guess
you're going to want to give them back.
everybody says that. That's the best part about it being a grandparent is
Yeah,
that you have the ability
you
of
get to
giving
give them
back.
back. Exactly. Um, so anyhow, yeah, I guess you want to wrap it up.
Well, yeah, we've been on now for an hour and 10 minutes, so
All
we
right.
might as well wrap it up
And keep it under 20 seconds. The Joe and Joe Weather Show is brought to you by.
Oh, it's my turn to
Yeah,
say this?
you do this.
Tempest, the folks over at Tempest,
Yes.
where you can get a revolutionary Tempest weather system and join the fastest growing observing network on the planet.
Yes.
If you use the magic words, I want a weather station when making
with the link that's pinned to the top of the chat board.
Yes, there it is. Purchase your Tempest weather flow Right. Yeah, I see it right there.
Right. So
Oh, amazing.
use the coupon code.
Use the coupon code I want a weather station, and you will get 10 big percent off anything, not just the weather station, but anything that Tempest sells. You can get 10% off by using that coupon code.
131 likes tonight. Thank you for those of you who hit the like button. If you like the show, make sure you subscribe and turn your notifications on so you don't miss it. Sunday through Thursdays at 7:35 and the occasional Friday and Saturday when there's a storm on. Happy birthday to Mrs. Rayo, which is tomorrow, and we'll see everybody tomorrow night at 7:35. Nighty night.
Nighty night, folks.